What is up, everyone? Hope you guys like that new intro, something that we're doing for the season now. Thank you for joining us. It is Buffalo Fanatics Film Session Live here on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube channel. Thank you for all of those who have decided to join me here today. We appreciate it. You'll notice I'm the only one here today. Kendall is off. He is a little bit busy this week, so he wasn't able to join us today, but he will be joining us virtually via pre-recorded Kendall. So we're still going to get his opinions on some of those plays that we saw from that game last week. I see we've got some regulars in the chat here. Always appreciate you guys. King Thriller, Matthew, Don Keith, John Herring. We appreciate all you guys for coming in here and joining us nice and early on this show here on Wednesday. A lot of things to go over. Someone said it in the chat here already. All four draft picks looked good. Yeah. And for me, it's those top three guys, those top three draft picks that we had, they looked really good in that game. There are really so many things that we could talk about from that game, but I don't know about you guys, but this is probably the most excited I've been after watching preseason football ever in my life. So I'm sure people are on the same page as me for that as well. Just the whole team is so deep at almost every position. Kendall and I didn't even choose least valuable players this week because there was almost no one that played badly enough for us to spotlight how bad they played. And there were so many guys that played so well that we wanted to spotlight those guys because we thought they played well enough and it warranted us talking about them a little more. So it couldn't be any more exciting at this point. And I know that it's only preseason, and I know I'm definitely getting way too excited about it. But this is exactly what you want to see out of a team coming off of a season like last year. They added some pieces to build in specific areas, specifically that pass rush and those offensive tackles. And to see those guys, even from 1 week to the next, we had a couple of those guys that didn't really play that well last week, but had a huge jump in play this week. So seeing things like that in a team like this has just been so good. I know there's plenty of injuries right now. The injury list is long. It's preseason. So I don't think that's too much to look into. But I do think that this is just so exciting. Yeah, I know Kendall is a slacker. I know, John. I mean, we tried as best we could, but he just didn't want to come on. So no, he's in the process of moving actually to another state. So he's super busy, and we hope that we can get him back here as soon as possible. Hamlin. Do you mean DeMar Hamlin? I know because I know DeMar Hamlin was one of the guys that we saw. Did Kendall get grounded? I love all the jokes you guys make about how young Kendall looks. Honestly, when I first met him, I told him right up front. I said, Kendall, I don't know if you're 18 or 26, so you're gonna have to let me know. But yeah, he's unfortunately didn't get grounded. No, he's moving. But yeah, so let's I think we might as well just get right into it, really. And like I said, we didn't pick any players that we thought were worthy of being least valuable player, just because throughout the entire game, the whole team played so well. I mean, the team was up 34 to 3 at halftime. Absolutely ridiculous game. And then from all the way down top to bottom of that roster, everyone really played well. So we're going to start out with the MVPs, and I think we're going to start out with letting a virtual Kendall here do a little bit of his segment. So virtual Kendall, who is your MVP?
Hey everyone, sorry I can't make it to the live film session, but I know Clay's gonna hold it down nicely. So I'm gonna do my part and at least give him some of my thoughts for the plays that I pulled, and I'll prompt you, Clay, to give your response on some of these. Um, my MVP was Spencer Brown. He probably wasn't deserving of MVP, but I really liked how he improved in this game, and that's kind of going to be the theme for all of the guys I'm going to talk about. But specifically Spencer Brown, it was very impressive, especially going up against Khalil Mack a lot in this game. And that's a play right there where we are very used to seeing how Spencer Brown gets beat on that outside shoulder. But against Khalil Mack, this is exciting. You know, he trusts his footwork, he keeps his hands in good placement, and he just drives him into the ground. It's very promising to see him have a rep like this against a guy like Khalil Mack so early in his career and show some coachable stuff. But also on the back end, I do want to know your thought, Clay, on this Dawson Knox little patience route, waiting for that linebacker to clear and then cutting the dig route onto the middle of the field. So a little double layer part to that play. Next two plays, this is just his athleticism. This is, we don't get a good camera angle, but like this is just Spencer Brown in space, and you love to see that kind of athleticism. And then the physicality at the point of attack. Obviously, that's a defensive back, and he should be mauling him, but it's still nice to see him mobile enough to get out there and make the play. And then similarly, on the next play, it's the Devin Singletary swing pass, and this is impressive because even after the catch, and obviously the impressive balance by Singletary, but you see Spencer come here and get that little clearing block on Khalil Mack as he's pursuing Devin Singletary, and he just flushes him out for him, and Singletary does his stuff with his refound elusiveness. So another double layered play. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Thank you, Kendall, for joining us. Pre-recorded Kendall for joining us for the show here. Spencer Brown, his MVP there, as you guys saw, and there were a couple of things that he wanted me to comment on. First of all, Spencer Brown. People are already talking about it in the chat as well. I think. Let's see. Dawn said it here. Every mistake that he made from the Lions game, he fixed it for the Bears game, and I would agree with that. And he, we really were kind of disappointed from what we saw from him in that first game. Both Kendall and I. We're really we're really disappointed, honestly, in Spencer Brown that first game. And this game, he's going against Khalil Mack. So I mean, and he handled himself very well in those situations. And then he flashed the athleticism a little bit. It was really good to see him kind of step up a little bit and play a lot better and play like we had kind of hoped that he might be able to do. So to see that kind of progress, which I touched on a little bit, that progress just from preseason week 1 to preseason week 2, and for him to be able to make even a jump from those 2 weeks, that was really awesome to see. Kind of wanted me to comment a little bit on the Dawson Knox play there. And that has to do with both Dawson Knox and Mitch Trubisky on that play. We're going to talk about one of those guys a little bit later. And I mean, Dawson did a really good job of kind of delaying his route there and waiting for that linebacker to vacate. Mitch did a good job of watching that linebacker, and really he was reading the play off that linebacker and nobody else there. So good read by him. Devin Singletary is still a beast. I mean, his explosiveness and his elusiveness that we saw from that game, from both games so far this preseason, he looks like a different guy almost. I mean, and even that touchdown run that he had where he was at the 20-yard line with about 4 guys between him and the end zone, and he somehow made it through there and scored the touchdown. So it's just really impressive what he's been able to do and how he's been able to use his momentum a little bit better and use his power to his advantage more. And just seeing him kind of improve from that has really been very exciting. So thank you, Don, for that comment. My MVP for the game was Greg Rousseau. And Greg Rousseau had 9 snaps this game. So you might be thinking, why is he my MVP when he was only in for 9 snaps? He's my MVP because out of those 9 snaps, about 5 of them were highlight worthy or noteworthy. So when more than half of your snaps in the game are like amazing, it's really hard for me to not go ahead and say, yeah, I need to put this guy in as my MVP. Like we said, we're going to touch on pretty much all guys that did really well. We pretty much only had MVPs from this game. So, but Greg Rousseau, let's get into some of the plays that I wanted to watch for, and I put in extra plays since Kendall can't bog me down here talking about extra stuff. First play here, and the one thing that I want to point out about all these reps with Rousseau really is his hand placement has been so good this entire preseason so far, which is something that Kendall and I both were kind of harping on him when we took a look at some of his college film, where we just didn't know what he was doing with his hands, and I don't think he knew either. But throughout this preseason so far, he showed us that he can put his hands in the right place to be an effective pass rusher in multiple different ways. This one's a pretty simple power rush here. He gets his hands in there and he just drives him back. It's a fairly quick release play, and he's not really doing too much disruption, but he's getting into the backfield. He's collapsing the pocket and forcing Dalton. He can't look at any of his other reads. I mean, he's locked on to Graham there at tight end, who luckily is matched up against a smaller Dane Jackson. So he can just hit that target pretty much in that one-on-one scenario. But if he had to go off and look at his second read here, Epinesa too on the other side, also doing a very nice job with his pass rush, very similar even rush that he had during that as well. Both of these guys, just really good power rush, good hand placement. They get underneath, they drive back. It's almost like they're a mirror image of each other on this play. These two guys, after watching this game, were just so exciting. I'm so excited to see these guys play a little more. Moving on to play 2 here. It's just another one where the hand placement is just so amazing. This time he actually does force Dalton out of the pocket because he has to go off of his first read. This is kind of exactly what we were talking about on that last rep. Well, if he has to go off his first read, he's in trouble. And that's what happens here. He has to go off of that first read. And that right tackle is really hanging on for dear life at this point, trying to do anything that he can to keep this guy from getting to his quarterback. But yeah, initial hand placement, I want to talk about it a little bit because he's getting really good at placing that hand right up in the top shoulder pad, like right in the shoulder and pushing back. And that's what he does here. He's been doing it a lot really well. And because of his length, he's going to be able to win a lot of reps by doing that and by getting that hand right up in the shoulder pad area like that and gaining leverage because of it. Both of these reps, by the way, I didn't talk about. The guard on both of these reps was looking to help. He was looking to help block after he realized that he didn't have anybody to cover. He gives a little bit of a push to Phillips here, and he tries to go with the help block. But Rousseau's already so deep in the pocket that he can't even do anything to help. So that was another thing that I noticed. I think that happened on the last play as well, where that guard is just, he can't get over to help fast enough because Rousseau's creating that penetration. Epinesa, again here, another great rush from him. He's also got great active hands. This is kind of a joint MVP really between these two guys because both of them were rushing the passer off the edge so well in that game. And really, you just got to be excited about it. There's nothing else I can do but just be way too excited about these two guys. But, we forced the incompletion there, Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa both, by forcing him out of the pocket, and then he has no one to go to. Yes, it was a Kendall slam, Lone Wolf. When he's here, I'm going to make a little bit more fun of him because he's not here. There's no repercussions if I do it now. And, what are the odds he watches this whole show back? No, I'll make fun of him when he's here too. I love Kendall and he's very smart, but yeah, we do get to talking sometimes though. That's it. Our shows sometimes afterward, we're like, hey, we kind of got to talking a little bit there. The show went over a little bit. Let's see. We're going to move on to play 3 here though with Rousseau. This one, it doesn't look like he's doing too much, but really, and this is also kind of a joint highlight for Harrison Phillips as well, who unfortunately, this is the play where he injured his knee on. But Rousseau and Phillips both here. I mean, Rousseau sets the edge very well. Gets his hands in there. He sets the edge, and now there's no way, because of where Phillips is, the ideal route for 8 would be to bounce it outside. But because Rousseau's got that edge completely sealed up, he can't bounce it outside. And because Phillips penetrating from the interior of the defensive line, he can't really go up into the gap that he's supposed to go in. So he's got nowhere to go, and he cuts it back. Hey, it's also an AJ Epinesa highlight. He stays home and he ends up forcing him back into the linebackers. This is a really good play, honestly, just all around. And I want to talk about each of these guys like a little bit individually going through here as well. So first of all, there's no help block with the guard. He releases right to Dodson here. And so this is exactly what you want out of your one tech defensive lineman. Harrison Phillips, if you want to put him one-on-one, this is what should happen every time. He should be 2 yards in the backfield right off the snap. And that's what he does here. So yeah, to have him there available, and then we've got Epinesa. He stays home, and we're going to go back a little bit. Look at him shuffle with the play. He's cutting back, and now I have to force him back inside. And by the time all that's going on, that lineman's done blocking Dodson. So Dodson's able to be there and be part of that play as well. So really, really good play all around here from that defensive front. And it was just, this was the story of the day, really. It was just the entire team playing in sync, all guys just doing their job really effectively. This is another one. This shows off the athleticism a little bit. And, he does get juked out a little bit by Andy Dalton here, but credit to Dalton. I mean, when you're running around from a guy that's that big, that's pretty scary. So it's pretty simple play here. He's doing a good job of reading the play and knowing what's going on here. He's watching for the play action. He identifies that the quarterback still has the ball. So if the ball was handed off, I have full confidence that Rousseau would be able to make this tackle on the 10-yard line. That guy would not have been able to make it around the corner just because of the length and, well, because of the penetration here too. He probably would have had to cut back or slow down. So Dalton ends up going to the outside, makes a nice little move there, but still, this is an incomplete pass, and it's because of Greg Rousseau. I mean, the coverage is probably pretty good. Unfortunately, we're not able to see it in the all 22 angle because that's not up at the moment. But he gets the pressure, and he's the reason that this is an incomplete pass because Dalton knew he was in trouble right about here when he's like, "Oh my goodness, this guy's closing in on me fast." And that's just the athleticism there that Greg Rousseau brings to the table. He is just long, man, and he can get back to you quicker than you might think. This play was probably, this is the one that's going to show up on the stat sheet. I like this angle a little bit better because we really get to see the hands from Greg Rousseau on this one. Look at that hand placement that I was kind of touching on earlier here. When Rousseau fires off the line, first of all, great first step from Rousseau. He's so quick off the line. Same with Epinesa, who I believe is, that's Basham on the other side. Also a great first step on this one. But look at that right hand of Greg Rousseau as he goes up and he punches that inside shoulder there of that offensive lineman, and he's getting him off balance right away because of that. He's getting the leverage underneath the shoulder pads, pushing him back, and he's got him dead to rights. I mean, Basham does a good job of kind of sealing this side of the line off. Penetration again from the interior, but really Greg Rousseau just working through the end of that block. Even without that interior pressure, I think he still probably would have made that play in the end. Just a really good job. And honestly, this is the play where I saw, because you can really see the hands working on this play. This was the play that I saw where I was like, his hands are so much better than what we saw from him in college. And I know that was a couple of years ago since he opted out. So I hope, whatever he's been doing, he's been doing it well, and he's been working hard at figuring out what to do with his hands there. And it's really exciting to be able to see a guy with that kind of length and strength figure out how to use his hands. That's going to be pretty dangerous for some of these other teams. Moving on here, let's go and see what is after with pre-recorded Kendall.
So instead of doing biggest surprise or even least valuable player, there wasn't really anyone that played really bad against the Bears. We absolutely walloped them, so it was hard for me to find anyone for biggest surprise or most improved, because week 1 preseason we got a lot of answers to any unknowns we had. Hence Josh Thomas surprising us, hence Andre Smith surprising us. Now they can't really surprise us as much. So instead I kind of did most improved, kind of like what I said with Spencer Brown. And I thought Boogie and Wildgoose improved a lot. And this is a play for Boogie. You see him showing his speed to get down the line on a run play. This is where I think he's gonna impact the the Bills defense the most in his rookie season, just setting the edge in the run game. But this isn't even setting the edge. This is outside zone, and he's just running down the line and chasing down his guy. Play number 2 here from Boogie. This is just another great play in the run game. You see him quick swim move right at the point of the attack, and he just gets right in the backfield and makes a play. Doesn't get the tackle for loss, but boy, this is good hand usage. This is good get off the snap. It's really just a promising play from Boogie. So I'm curious what you think about that, because this is definitely not the sluggish Boogie we saw last week.
And he's absolutely right, Kendall. There, thank you, pre-recorded Kendall. First of all, I want to address some of the comments here before I get too far into this. Harrison Phillips, yes, Don, and a lot of people are talking about it, about how well Harrison Phillips did. He did amazing both weeks. I'm really, really sad about Harrison Phillips being injured, because he still is, he still has the potential to be there. Hopefully his recovery is fast enough to get him in early season still. He's gearing up to have a really good season. So I'm really hoping that he's able to stay healthy here. I wanted to bring this up because it's the second time it's happened. Chris Janke, thank you for joining us. You're a little bit late, which is why this is hilarious. Someone else has already made this exact joke. Someone has already asked if Kendall is grounded, and I mentioned how I think it's hilarious how you guys are always making these jokes about how young Kendall looks. We're the same age, guys. I know that I look about 10 years older than him. Kendall and I are the same age, believe it or not. But thank you for these comments, guys. It's good to see you guys, you regulars as well, in here as well. Joseph Tillman. I've never heard Richard called that before, so I'm glad that you were able to bring that into my mind for me. But yeah, anyway, going back to what Boogie was doing here. This was the play that he wanted me to look at here, and yeah, it's night and day, honestly, from what we saw from him last week. He looked sluggish, as Kendall said. He didn't really look like he had a great jump off the line. This week, completely different. I mean, look at how fast he gets off the line, swims around. Someone mentioned how bad number 70 looked here. Yeah, Lone Wolf. Number 70 looking like Bobby Hart. Yeah, I mean, he gets beat easily here. And with that swim move. But yeah, I love the hustle here, and a great tackle too. These are the kind of things we saw him do in college that we were excited to see at the next level as well. And his run defense is something that I think is going to be big. I think he can definitely help in the pass rush too. But yeah, really nice move here, and then uses his length to get back there, wraps up around the waist, gets down to the knees there. So really good stuff there from Boogie Basham. And now we're going to switch it back over to pre-recorded Kendall.
Jumping off the idea of sluggish Boogie last week, we didn't see it as much this week. He played a lot of snaps, but he didn't look nearly as sluggish. He was playing with a high level of intensity and a high motor. And you can see it on this play. This isn't the greatest outcome, but it's a good play from Boogie. You can see him, rushing on the interior here, but he has eyes in the backfield. You can see it right at that moment where he stunts inside. Right here, you can see his eyes in the backfield, and then he sees Fields flush out, and he didn't swim move, and he gets in his way. You see him get his hand up right there, disrupt the passing lane, and then he just tries to pursue. Unfortunately, Justin Fields is just that kind of athlete, and he gets away from him. But it's still encouraging to see him work this hard for a play that's flushed out of the pocket the way it is. So I really did like this play, even though it wasn't the greatest outcome for him. But it's a learnable, it's a teachable moment for him. So I liked it.
Yeah, and I wanted to touch on that as well. The vision was the one thing that I really liked from this play from Basham, was his ability to recognize what's going on. And yeah, he almost gets that. He almost makes that tackle. Really close play here from him. But yeah, the vision here to recognize, he's rushing through the inside. And with a guy like Fields, you need to be ready for him to leave the pocket. So he's got his eyes up. He's waiting. He cuts inside. It kind of looked like Fields wanted to he's got a lot of green grass here at the bottom of the screen. So he definitely could have taken this ball right up that sideline if he wanted to, but he decides to bail out. And maybe it's because he's got it, Basham kind of coming through the center of the line here. But as he's bailing out, we got a spin out by Basham, and he goes and follows him. He's step for step with him. I don't know if he's playing kind of a spy role here, or if this is just more of an off the cuff play from Basham. But regardless, very well done here from Basham to have that recognition, to spin out of it. And then, yeah, I mean, really, he's starting his spin almost as Fields is making this juke to come upfield. He might be trying to spin right into where he thinks Fields is going to take that ball through that gap here. But when he turns around and identifies that he's going to go out, stay step for step with him. And yeah, we'll fix this one. It's your second game in the NFL. You're not playing guys like Fields every weekend when you're playing college ball. So we'll get those down. We'll figure out how to force him out of bounds and stuff like that, instead of maybe making that tackle, force him back inside or force him out of bounds with a guy that elusive. But still, really good play. Love the recognition and love the vision there. And now we're going to flip it right back over to Kendall.
So we got a double whammy here with Boogie and Wildgoose flashing on this play. Boogie not as much as Wildgoose, but I still want to talk about it because you see that get off the line of scrimmage. He's just got a clear line to the quarterback, and he doesn't get there because he can't exactly corner around tackles yet. I think that's going to come with time. That's not necessarily his bread and butter. It's more of the inside moves or the inside rusher. So it's going to come with time, but it's still encouraging to see the get off is there. He's just got to, get that bendy nature to him if he wants to start hitting those moves. But you see Wildgoose on the top of your screen here, and I really had a problem with him in press coverage last game, and he gets beat off the press coverage again here. Lets a clean outside release, but the recovery is nice. The thing I have about this play, I love that the vets are hyping him up because the rookie needs that hype. But Clay, I want to know what you think. It's good ball skills to get your hand in the catch point, but it's a little early. Do you think it's too handsy? Do you think it's pass interference? I want to know what you think, Clay.
Yes. So I have to agree with him there. Here's that play that he was talking about. And we're specifically keying in on Wildgoose here on this play. I do think that he gets there a little bit early. And it's pretty bang bang from here, but he's reading what I do like. He's reading the eyes of the wide receiver. He's not so much reading the hands as much. The hands and the arms are the second tell. So first you read the eyes, and then once the hands go up, that's when you fire your hands as well. He's a little early on firing the hands. Of course, 88 does kind of put his hands up a little bit early on the ball as well. There's a ref standing right here. So if he didn't call it, maybe you can get away with this because they're both kind of hand fighting with each other a little bit. I do think he gets there a little bit early, though. I'd like to see him right there. You definitely could have called that because he's blocking off that left arm there of 88. So definitely could have been a call. So be careful next time. You want to shoot that hand a little bit later, and maybe wait till he goes and those eyes really get wide and those hands really get close together before you want to shoot that hand through there. But overall, it was a good play, and he was able to stay with him pretty much step for step. Maybe lost a step in the beginning, but was able to catch up, and we did see a little bit of closing ability from him as well. I completely forgot which pre-recorded Kendall I'm supposed to play next. Let's try number 4.
And on this next play by Wildgoose, we see him break up the catch point yet again. This one's a little bit different. He's in off coverage here, so he's kind of got to narrow up that separation at the top of the route. And you see him do that pretty nicely. You see that quick, it's kind of like a slanted release from the wide receiver on the top side of your screen. You don't really see him getting vertical. You see him kind of just slanting immediately, and it forces Wildgoose to chase, and ultimately he just breaks up that catch point so nicely. You can see it here. He's there, but he drives on the ball a little bit late. I would have liked to see him close down that separation, but what I love about this play is his knowledge to go for the football in this situation. You see him specifically pulling at the football right at the catch point. It's very good timing. It's a very heady play by a rookie, so it's very encouraging to see something like this. What I will say, though, is I don't want to see as much separation at the top of those routes. but it's still nice to see him recover the 2 times that he did in this game. I think there's something to be said about that. So I'm curious your thoughts on this play. What do you think, Clay?
Thanks, pre-recorded Kendall. I really liked this play, and I really liked how Wildgoose was playing a lot of this game. First of all, he did say Wildgoose to chase. I'm almost positive he did that on purpose. You guys in the chat are also on top of this as well. Thank you, Jose. I'm pretty sure he did that on purpose to say Wildgoose chase. But anyway, I really like this play, and I actually don't really have too much of an issue with the way that he played this one, just because he's off. And I feel like he knows that Hamlin's got to cut underneath him, either under or over. And if he comes down and tries to cut this route off instantly, these guys might end up running into each other. So what I'm hoping is that Wildgoose knew this. I'm probably giving him maybe a little too much credit for knowing that, but he lets Damar Hamlin kind of cut in front of him, and because he's got the off coverage here, I mean, the separation between these two guys at this point in time is pretty big. It's a pretty big gap. You can see why Fields wanted to throw this route, because he's open. He's open over the middle here. So it's not any fault of Fields. It's not any fault of the wide receiver, except hang on to the football. But I think Wildgoose, the closing speed that he's able to make here to get to the ball at the point of attack, I think is actually really impressive. So I don't have too much of an issue with the space between them, just because of the coverage that was being run and Damar Hamlin having to run underneath. I think the reaction time, and then the wherewithal to get your hand in there. First of all, really good hand placement right off the bat to get it right fitted in those shoulder pads on the ball, and then to rip out as you're going down to the ground. That's a veteran move. That's pretty crafty right there, to be able to have that wherewithal to rip the ball out when you're going down to the turf like that. So I was very pleased with this play. This was really the play where I was like, Kendall's got to talk about Wildgoose this week, because he put him as his LVP last week, and he must have seen it, Wildgoose, because he showed up in this game. So yes, I was very happy to see this one, and then that being able to rip the ball out like that. Really good stuff from Wildgoose. I was very happy to see what he was doing there. Back to Kendall for second to last time. Let's see. I think we got another boogie play coming up.
On this next play, we go back to Boogie here, and we just see another good example of him in run defense. He gets right around this right tackle here, and he really would have made this play, and he did kind of make the play in general. The run was designed to go at him, and Khalil Herbert has to cut it back because of how Basham is just manhandling this right tackle. And so much that the right tackle has to hold him. You can see him try and get around the edge, and he's just completely holding him. You can see the Boogie's left shoulder pad is being held. But yeah, it's a great play by him to fight through the hold and ultimately help F.A. Obata make the tackle for loss on this play.
Yeah, and I mean, this was good stuff. I guess I didn't end up touching on this play afterward, but yeah, it was just a good game from Basham, and like we said, he was so impressive, especially after his performance in week 1. It was really good to see him kind of bounce back a little bit, and that was a similar play, by the way, that we saw with Rousseau and Epinesa earlier, where it's one guy coming off and setting the edge, so that the running back can't bounce it outside and has to cut back. And then it's the other defensive end sitting there waiting on the ball to be able to make the stop when that running back has to cut back inside. So it's good to see that at any level, because even Epinesa and Rousseau are maybe 3 and 4 around the depth chart. I'm not really sure where they're going to end up based on how they're playing this preseason. But you've got 2 guys that are getting surely paid a lot more money, at least, in Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison, who haven't even seen the field yet this preseason. So when you got Basham and Obata up there, those are like your 5th and 6th defensive ends on the depth chart, and they're making plays that any of those guys can make. So to see that ability all the way down through the depth chart at the defensive ends, if I could have made defensive ends as a whole my MVP for the game, I absolutely would have, because Daryl Johnson too also had a hell of a game. I have no idea how Brandon Beane is going to figure out how to cut this roster down, specifically, wide receiver and defensive end. You have to decide, which one of those are you going to keep 7 guys at, and can you keep 7 at both of those? Because I think you have to keep 7 defensive ends. I just don't think there's an option because of the way that all these guys are playing. So, it will definitely be interesting to see how that one gets cut down in the end. So he did most improved. I figured that we're just making our own rules at this point. So I did the best revenge, and obviously that's from Mitch Trubisky. Mitch had a really good game, and it wasn't even so much that he was doing a bunch of flashy things. It's not like he was running all over the field making these crazy plays. He was just playing smart football, and he was running the plays as they were supposed to be ran. So kudos to Brian Dable, first of all, and Sean McDermott for putting him in the game for the entire first half. And then for Dable to call all those plays, keep calling pass plays. I think Trubisky had 28 attempts at halftime before he got taken out. So to be like, hey man, go into your old stadium against your old team, against a coach that didn't believe in you. And why don't you go show him what he's missing out on and why they should have paid you a little bit of money instead of Andy Dalton. And he proved that they should have done that. And I'm really happy he was able to do that. Good for Mitch. There were some plays though that I wanted to talk about a little bit, because they were a little bit elevated on that next level. But yes, here ball was out of his hands in less than a secondary play. Thank you, the Ghost of Judah Tribe. Yeah, absolutely. He was just running the plays really well. He knew where he was supposed to look. He knew the guys he was supposed to be reading, and he would get the ball out on time into those gaps. He just did a really good job of it the entire game. Yeah. So anyway, we're gonna look at this play first here. This was one where he had to escape the pocket, and this showed off a little bit of that escapability. He's not really being chased too much, but I love his ability and the wherewithal to be able to bail out here and be like, you know what, I'm getting pressure. I know I've played against Khalil Mack in practice enough to know that if he's getting a little too close, I want to bail out and go off to the other side here. But not only that, when he bails out, he finds an open guy and delivers the ball in stride. In his stride anyway, to Gabe Davis, who's sitting there in the open zone. So I was impressed with this play and with Mitch's ability to have that awareness to get out of that pocket, use his athleticism to then go on and make a play. This is a really grainy picture because it was a picture within a picture during the broadcast. So my apologies for this one, but this was another really good athletic escapability play. When I was watching this live, I really thought he was going to take the sack there, because he was pretty much dead to rights in the pocket there. And this is almost a little Josh Allen-esque. I think this is really where we kind of are getting a little bit of that flavor of Mitch Trubisky is the perfect Josh Allen backup or Josh Allen replacement. And I know we're only going to have him for a year. There's no chance that he's going to re-sign with us, especially if he plays any, meaningful or unmeaningful downs this season in the NFL. Regardless of that, I think he's going to have a job afterward, just because of how he's played in this preseason. And then, if he gets in a couple blowout games, I think we're going to see a lot of the same. But anyway, very athletic play. He's got 3 guys pretty much. I didn't even pay attention to who was on the line. I was just paying attention to Mitch really, but really bad job by the offensive line here. Really good job by Mitch Trubisky to spin out of that, go get the first down, and then take an illegal hit that didn't get called after he stepped out of bounds here. And the crowd was super loud on this play. I loved it because they all thought, we're going to get him. We're going to get Mitch this time. Let's go. We're going to get the sack. And then he escaped. And I think the crowd got louder after. I think they were kind of excited. You can't not love Mitch. He's just a good dude and just kind of didn't really get the opportunity that he got, or that he should have gotten over there in Chicago. So this was another play where it was a little bit of a wow play, as opposed to some of the more mundane, this is what you should be doing plays, which I have no problem with. If he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, fantastic. Do it the whole game and you'll win games. Brady made a career out of it. A pretty damn good one too. but yeah, here on this play as well, escaping outside, and this is a double highlight. Obviously, I want to talk about Jake Kumaro here at some point as well, but this is another one where he goes off his first read. He didn't have to do that much this game. First of all, he didn't have to go off his first read. I wanted to find some plays where he had to go a little bit unscripted or go to that second read. Here, first read's not open. He's getting pressure from the outside, so he's just going to roll out a little bit and ends up finding a guy downfield. And he says, you know what, Jake Kumaro's a big, tall guy. I'm going to go throw it to him on the sideline and see what we can get out of this one. And Kumaro, good on him. Look at that catch, man. I mean, Kumaro had his ups and downs this game. He dropped a couple of passes that he should have caught. But this is a real wow play. Watching it live, I thought there's no way he got both of his feet down. And sure enough, they showed that slow-mo replay real quick after, and I was very impressed. The full extension catch, very good to be able to high point the ball, go up, have the body awareness and the body control. The high pointing of the ball right there is just so good. It's a pass that you can't defend. So Mitch Trubisky putting it up in a way where it can't be touched by the defender. And it's a catch that you can't defend either, where he's up, his body is between, the ball and the defender, goes up, makes the catch, feet down. Very, very impressive catch here from Kumaro. And like I said, he dropped a couple of passes, so he really needed this one. Of course, I think he caught a touchdown or a 2-point conversion as well in the game at some point. But he definitely needed that one. But yeah, Mitch Trubisky really just had a pretty fantastic game for a guy that no one was really expecting him to go out and perform the way he did. We all kind of hoped he would, but for him to actually go out there and beat up on his old team was really fun to see. And I know a lot of people around the league, fans of different teams, were also really happy for him. Even I know some Bears fans were happy for him as well, that he was able to go and do that, because some guys kind of knew that he got shafted a little bit in Chicago. I did stick with biggest surprise, and my biggest surprise was Reggie Gilliam. And how could it not be? I mean, the fullback Reggie Gilliam, the former tight end, now fullback Reggie Gilliam, he was so impressive. And he did so many different things this game, which I think is why I was so impressed and surprised, because Reggie Gilliam's doing stuff that we did not expect Reggie Gilliam to be doing. So, I mean, sure, he had a couple of touchdowns, but he was doing it all. I mean, here's a blocking play from him, and he's lead blocker on a toss play, looking out, reading, figuring out who he's going to block. I think he's looking at this guy first, saying, I might have to block this guy. Realizes he's got that pulling guard coming around for the help, and he says, nope, that's my guy on the inside. Quickly identifies that instead, and pops him pretty good. I mean, it's a decent pop that he gives him there, enough to allow Zach Moss to get through that hole and into the end zone, ? I don't know. I think they reviewed this one and it ended up not being a touchdown. But yeah, Reggie Gilliam, great pop here on the block. That's what you want to see from your fullback, especially when he's transitioned from a tight end position, to be able to see him coming out of the backfield from a true fullback spot on a toss sweep, to go out there and hit somebody and open up the hole for your running back to make it through to that next level. Really, really impressive play here. And then, yeah, he had those 2 touchdowns. We're going to show those. This one I thought was really, really good, because he gets stuffed up the middle, and he's like, well, outside's open. Let me just go out there instead. Gets stuffed in the middle, and then to have the awareness. This is not a guy that's getting carries out of the backfield, or has gotten carries out of the backfield. He's a tight end, a transition tight end into a fullback, and now he's getting handoffs out of the backfield. I think he converted on a 4th down as well at some point, a 4th and 1 or a 3rd and 1. I can't remember what it was, but he was getting the ball in short yardage situations, and then, yeah, get into the end zone, big man. That's what we love to see, and having that awareness to bounce it outside when you get stuffed up the middle. Here's the second one. He kind of got stuffed again, but he just said, you know what, I think I can get in, and he did. He got in right off that initial burst here. I think Cody Ford was one of the lead guys there. He got just enough, along with, I think, Bates. Is that who 72 is? I can't remember. To be able to pop himself into the end zone there. So yeah, really was really impressed with what they did with Reggie Gilliam on the goal line here. And yes, I did pick him up in my Dynasty Fantasy League. So I don't want to talk about it. I'm short on tight ends and running backs. This is toward the end of the game. Reggie Gilliam was getting handoffs out of shotgun. He was lining up in shotgun. I can't even remember who 72 is Doyle. Thank you, Chris Jenke. I'm wrong. 72 is it Doyle? I think so. I believe you, Chris Jenke. You wouldn't lead me astray. But yeah, Doyle and Ford both giving a nice push on that goal line run for Gilliam. Yes. Anyway, at the end of the game, first of all, I kind of like what the Bills were doing. They're like, well, we got a running back that's beat up. We got a couple of guys that we know are going to make the team. So why don't we just give Gilliam some carries toward the end and see what he's got? And I liked what I saw. You know, he didn't have too many crazy plays, and you can tell he's not really a guy that's used to getting handoffs out of the backfield like that. But look at this run. I mean, he gets the handoff. This might be an RPO, maybe. Kind of looks like Lenore's running a route. It kind of even looks like Webb might have wanted to pull that ball out to throw it, because Lenore is open up there on the top of the screen. But regardless, Gilliam says that ball's mine, and I'm going to go take it for a first down. Lenore wouldn't have gotten that first down. I'm going to get it though. Really good run. I mean, who expected this coming into the game out of Reggie Gilliam? Who would have thought he's going to get an RPO run? And then everything's blocked up here where he's supposed to go. Everything's a little clogged up. So he says, yeah, I'm just going to go bounce it outside. And hey, there's some open space for me to run through. Why don't I just go run this for a first down? So Reggie Gilliam, I was super, super pleased with seeing what he has the potential to do. And yeah, I don't think he's going to be getting any of these snaps in the regular season unless something really terrible goes wrong. So I'm hoping that we don't see him in these types of situations during the regular season. But regardless, we know that our fullback can with the ball in his hands do something with it. So I'm very excited to see what Brian Dable does with the fullback position. I know that he's been super creative about getting different guys into the backfield as well. So now that he's got a fullback, first of all, we got Morris, I think they're playing. He's in the backfield. We saw Nate Becker lined up at tailback in one of these plays. I almost put it in there just because I thought it was really cool. Nate Becker lined up at tailback when Gilliam got a fullback dive on one of these plays. So I don't know what Dable's into, but I like it. But yeah, Reggie Gilliam, really cool. Yeah, and he looks fast. Someone said Pierre's trying to work out a trade live during the show right now. But yeah, I'm not giving you Mooney. He's been trying to get Mooney from me the entire offseason. It's not going to happen. I'm sorry, Pierre. But yes, Gilliam looked really good, and I was excited to see that he's got some ability. And I think Dable is probably excited about that as well. Moving on now, we're going to go to favorite plays of the week, and I'm going to let Kendall go first here. Pre-recorded Kendall, why don't you take it away for us?
2 weeks in a row here, Marquez Stevenson comes through with my favorite play. He's making splash plays, he's making plays, and that's what someone with speed is supposed to do. They're supposed to be a playmaker, and Marquez Stevenson is making plays this preseason. Shout out to Pierre. He said that Marquez Stevenson was going to return a punt in this game, and he did. I actually don't know if Pierre said punt specifically, but he said he was going to take one to the house. And he did. It was really impressive to see him run away from people. What I will say is you can see it here on this angle. The Bills punt team did a good job blocking. You can see Duke, RIP Duke, getting cut from the team. But he did seal out that blocker nicely, push him towards the sideline as Stevenson goes back towards the middle of the field. Same with Dodson there at that level. But then you just see the speed, the burners just get turned on, and Stevenson just runs away from everyone. So I'm curious if you think this puts Stevenson back in the running for a roster spot, or if you think his foot injury could place him on IR. I'm curious your thoughts on it, Clay.
Yeah, it was really. First of all, that play was awesome, and I love Ryan Sullivan, Sports Rock 2. He is hilarious. But we all knew that he was going to be insufferable if it happened, and we were right. And I'm here for it, honestly. Good for him. He's been defending him the whole time. Yeah, the injury definitely a little concerning. We got an injury to Isaiah McKenzie. He's in a sling. He was in a sling today, and then we got a foot injury for Stevenson. They just signed that guy that played for Washington a little bit. Someone I'm sure Chris Jenke probably has got his name right off the top of his head. Yeah, someone put that name in the chat real quick. I think he could contribute as well, and actually make things more difficult, make it a harder decision between those three guys, because I think he can contribute on offense as a wide receiver as well. So we shall see what ends up happening with those guys. I think that competition is probably the spiciest ones so far, or at this point anyway. So I am curious to see how that goes, especially with these guys that are coming up with injuries as well. So my favorite play, I'm sure you haven't seen it yet. It's this guy named AJ Epinesa absolutely bulldozing. I don't know who number 70 is. I know that I don't care what his name is because he's not really a starting left tackle. Tevin Jenkins is supposed to be playing that. He's hurt. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's the highest left tackle on the depth chart, and AJ Epinesa just steamrolls this guy. I mean, how could this not be your favorite play from the game? It was all over Twitter. And for good reason. I mean, first of all, immediately great hand placement to get it up in the shoulder pad, just like we talked about with Rousseau, to getting that hand up in the shoulder pad and setting your guy off balance. And he sets him so off balance that he puts him on his ass and then runs over him. I mean, this is just an absolutely dominant play from your defensive end to be able to get in there and almost cause a fumble. I mean, if he gets his hand, a couple inches to the side, he's going to get that football as he's coming around. But just a completely dominant play here from AJ Epinesa. And I don't know what 70 was doing. I don't know if he just wasn't expecting that kind of power coming out of him. But I don't know if we were expecting this kind of power from Epinesa after what we saw last year. He came in at a lighter weight, Epinesa did. At the beginning of last season, they wanted him to slim down a little bit, kind of like, similar thing that we're talking about with Boogie Basham, where maybe they want him to slim down a little bit, take off some of the bad weight, put on some good weight. So I think Epinesa last season, he took off all the bad weight, but he didn't have enough of that good weight to be able to do power rushes like this. He's put on that good weight from what we can tell so far this preseason. He's been working hard to be able to make those power rushes his thing again, because that's what his bread and butter was when he was in college, was that power rush. And if this is the kind of AJ Epinesa we're getting coming into the season, then like I said, how can you not be excited about these defensive ends and what they're able to do to these guys? I mean, and like I said, even Daryl Johnson's in the backfield too here, and he had a really good game. I think he's got the highest graded pass rush in PFF this preseason, the highest graded pass rusher. Greg Rousseau, 33% pressure rate. Absolutely insane pressure rate from Greg Rousseau this preseason off of, it's 29 snaps, sure. But it's still insane that he's able to just completely dominate when he's on the field. This play is just, what can you say other than absolutely dominant? But I mean, yeah. So anyway, who are your guys' MVPs? Did you have an LVP watching this game? For anybody else that was watching this game, did you see anyone on the field where you thought, maybe this guy is not playing so well? He definitely could have played better. There really weren't that many guys at all that I saw that were struggling enough to warrant being called an LVP. Pretty much everyone on the field played well, played up to the ability that they should have, really, and even beyond that for some of these levels. Mackenzie muffing the punt. That's a good one. And, Mackenzie was kind of a hot and cold guy that whole game. I mean, he contributed very heavily on the offensive side. Just with how many catches he made. I think he was the leading wide receiver for the Bills, and I think he was Mitch Trubisky's favorite target on the day overall. He kept on getting open. He was doing a good job of sitting in those zone gaps and really just kind of being somewhat of a safety net for Mitch Trubisky underneath, and he used him effectively. So Mackenzie, he muffed the punt, and that's not good. That's especially not good when you're competing now with two other guys, really, with that signing. I think someone said his name. Did I miss it earlier? Steven Sims. Thank you, Pierre and Chris, on a pretty close tie there on who got that one first. Now it's a competition now. So to be able to have something like that go wrong for you, it's definitely not good. He got his own fumble back, but it doesn't matter. You can't be doing that. He had a nice return after as well. Got himself across the field, probably 30, 40-yard return there. So that was good to kind of see him bounce back after that. But in a competition like this, when it's already kind of up for grabs for that return job and the wide receiver depth is already so good, you really got to do everything you can to try and make that roster. And now that, throw Steven Sims into the mix as well, it's going to make it that much more tough. So yeah, LVP was injuries. I'd agree with that. We saw Harrison Phillips go down, which to me is the most upsetting. I think just because I was so impressed with him from what we saw preseason week 1, and then what we saw of him in this game before he got hurt and had to leave the game. So definitely don't want to see that. We want to see these guys get back. The injury list is long right now. Stephon Diggs is still hurt as well. He's having his issues. Looks like he's kind of slowly gearing back up to get back on the field here, and hopefully he's ready to go week 1. I don't care if he plays a preseason snap at all, and I'm sure a lot of you guys feel the same. Where I don't need to see Diggs. I don't need to see some of these veteran guys. Beasley doesn't have to play snap. That's fine. Sanders, he doesn't need to see the field. That's fine. We know what those guys can do at this point in their career. I want Josh to get in because I feel like Josh is going to want to throw a little bit before the regular season. Give him a drive or two. Just tell, if it's not there, get rid of the ball fast so you don't take any hits. Throw it deep a couple times, get the arm loose, get the blood flowing a little bit, the game action. So I wouldn't mind seeing Josh Allen for a drive or two in this next preseason game here. But yeah, injuries, COVID list, there's a lot going on. A lot of these guys are kind of sitting out at the moment. So definitely don't want to see that. I didn't talk about Hollister at all, but I could have. Hollister had a pretty solid game. I think, there's a debate on Twitter right now. Is Hollister better than Dawson Knox? And I think it's a valid argument on who could be better. I think both of those guys are probably similar skills, similar skill sets, similar skill level between those two guys. And so I think it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure how good of a blocker Hollister is. I haven't looked into it enough to be able to kind of judge that. But I do know that Dawson Knox has been a pretty solid blocker for the time that he's been here, for the most part anyway. So I think that's going to be a sneaky competition at that tight end position to see who comes out on top there. Is that going to be Knox or is that going to be Hollister? I think halfway through the season, it still might be kind of a thing that's going on. Or maybe one of them will be inactive. Maybe it'll be a Croft and Knox situation where I do think Croft could have played and done absolutely fine. So Ford played pretty well. Pass blocking. We didn't have a lot of time. Kendall and I, neither of us had a ton of time this week. We were both pretty busy. So I wanted to watch more of the line, but when I watch the line, I really like to watch it over and over and over and over again, because it's hard to see in there sometimes and what those guys are doing with their hands and their footwork and everything like that. So it's something you really got to get in there and get detailed with when you watch it. But I liked what I saw from Ford week 1. We didn't talk about him there, but we definitely could have in that one. And Cody Ford, I think he's probably gonna nab that starting spot pretty easily. Any updates on Isaiah? We don't have any updates. All that we know is he's in a sling right now, as far as the injury. Bucker as well at that left guard. I don't know. Both of those guys can play. I liked what we saw from Bucker. He had some good plays. He had some bad plays too last season, but I haven't taken as deep of a look as I have into the offensive line as I would maybe like to. So hopefully I've got time to do that next week, a little more free time, and hopefully Kendall can join us live next week as well. But that is we're still yet to be seen. But yeah. We still got 81 people in here. We've been going for a solid hour now. And I just want to say I appreciate everyone that's come in here. We got all the usuals and then some. So I appreciate each and every one of you that's come in here and watched some film with me today. Thank you for sticking around with dealing with virtual pre-recorded Kendall for us. And hopefully we'll get him back for next week. But anything else that you guys want to talk about here as we're closing out? Talk a little bit about the injuries here. 2 weeks from the last preseason game until I don't. Yeah, there's time for the injuries to heal, essentially. And then I think someone said, I can't remember who. Yeah, Richard. Most concerned with Harry and Mackenzie's injuries. Yeah, I mean, Mackenzie, I think he's more replaceable. Is tough as it is to say that, he is slightly more replaceable than I think what Harrison Phillips is bringing to the table at the moment. So we do still have Star Latulele or Lodulele. We're gonna figure that one out, how to pronounce that one. So yeah, I mean, it's still to be seen, but I really liked what I was seeing from Harry. So definitely sad to see him go down, and I hope that he has a fast recovery. He's a great guy too. Bot and I interviewed him in the offseason, and he looked big. So we were excited to see what he was able to do, and he's shown out. Hawk, LVP, you might be right. I didn't want to talk about a punter. Honestly, I didn't even think about it, but talking about a punter in film session probably would have been pretty boring. I'll talk about the long snapper because everyone loves Reed, but maybe Hawk LVP. I'm a little disappointed in that punter play, and maybe we should have kept Bojorquez. He still might get cut though, because he's the number 2 guy on the Rams right now, and the Rams have the best punter in the league. So he might be available if we ever want to get him back. But Hawk, I would like to make sure that he's stepping it up. And if Boho is still playing the way Boho was, then pay the guy the little bit extra money that he probably wanted for having a season that he did. So I don't know. It's still yet to be seen, but yeah, really, really good game overall. And like I said, it was hard to criticize any of those guys that were out there just because it was so solid from top to bottom. This is the most deep. Obviously, this is the deepest roster I've ever seen the Buffalo Bills have in my lifetime. I was still hiding pacifiers from my parents when the last time this roster was this deep. So it's just really exciting to know that even if a guy goes down, we've got a ton of guys back there at the safety position, at the linebacker position, the D line. The O line's probably the weakest, where we maybe don't have as much security in that position group, but pretty much every other position group is just so deep. Corner also a little weak, but hopefully we can get McLeod and Wildgoose playing a little bit better. We saw McLeod. I think he played well this week as well. He had a pretty good game both weeks. So yeah. Anyway, once again, thank you guys so much for coming and watching. You can follow me on Twitter at Clay Troya if you want to see some more film stuff. I didn't have time to put anything out after the game this week, but what Kendall and I are going to try to do on a week-to-week basis really is any of the plays, any of the players that don't fit into our MVP, LVP, and favorite play categories. It's yet to be seen. I mean, kind of what we're going to do for the regular season, what works best for us. But whatever we're not able to fit into this show, we're going to try to put in a thread on Twitter so that you guys can get a more dense look at what was going on in those games. So go follow us on Twitter. I'm at Clay Troy. He's at Mersky Kendall. So go give us a follow over there, and also follow Buffalo Fanatics at Beeflo Fanatics for any updates on live shows or anything like that, to make sure that you're up to date on everything. And follow us on Instagram, Buffalo Fanatics, there as well. Once again, thank you guys for sticking around. It's always a pleasure to talk with all of you. I'm glad I was able to read some of those comments while pre-recorded Kendall was up. It was a good time. And thank you again for bearing with us through our busy schedules. Stick around. Not too long from now, we've got Z-Bot coming on. He's going to have a show. I think he's taste testing the sauces, the Josh's sauces today. So if you live in the Buffalo area, go stop at a Wegmans and get those. Bot's going to let you know how they are. So stick around. He'll be on in just a moment. But until then, thank you so much, and go Bills.